You are listening to the It's Your Time podcast, and I'm your host, Certified Life Coach Michelle Arnold Burke. In today's episode, we're sharing our final installment in the Mentoring Bonus Series, and today we're talking to Phoebe Swan, Senior Leader, Global Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity at Medtronic, and we're discussing mentoring and GIDE as well as ERGs. Welcome to the It's Your Time podcast, the podcast where busy professionals like you get the practical solutions and support you need to gain control of your schedule so you can strive to be the best in your career, but without the stress and overwhelm. If you're looking to increase your energy and decrease your stress, you are in the right place. Hello. Welcome back to the podcast, friends. Here we are, our final episode of the bonus mentoring series. And I just want to say thank you to all of our guests, Carla, Julia, Radina, Steve, and today's guest, Phoebe Swan. Thank you to the entire Aspire team for all of the work that you've done this entire month and for allowing me the opportunity to share these amazing leaders. If you have missed any of them, please go back and listen. They all had their own unique gems to share. And thank you to you for being here, for listening, for commenting, and for sharing. It has been such a delight to be part of this project. Now, let's hop into today's guest. Phoebe is a senior program manager for Medtronic Global Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity. We had a great conversation around what that means and how you can get started with mentoring groups within employee resource groups, how you can take control of what your mentoring path is and why that's important to own that. She had so many gems to share. I do not want to delay us any longer. Please jump in, take a listen. Thank you so much for being here today. This is going to be so much fun. Can you start by introducing yourself in a way that you see fit?
Yes. Okay. So I am Phoebe Swan, and I have an extensive HR background that's pretty broad, ranging from comp and benefits to talent management to leadership development, and now the inclusion, diversity, and equity space, which I absolutely love because it really touches every part of Medtronic. So right now I am the senior manager, program manager for the MWN network and for the Asian Impact network. And outside of that, in addition to those responsibilities, which they are huge, don't think that we're just, twiddling our pens. I lead the training series that we launched last year and we continue it through this year for our hub leaders. We really want to invest back in those that are the frontliners, helping us to make it happen. So that's probably one of the most enjoyable parts of my role.
Yeah, that is so much fun. And throughout the series, people have been sharing a little bit about their stories on how mentoring has helped them. So can you maybe give a little bit of insight on from your perspective?
Yes, mentoring can be formal or informal. And when I look throughout my journey, I had informal mentors outside of my corporate environment and inside my corporate environment. And I just didn't always know there was mentoring until I landed an official mentoring program. But whether it's official or not, there has to be a connection and an intrinsic desire from the person who's going to do the mentoring and from the person receiving the mentoring. I've been in cases where I've mentored someone and I thought, oh my gosh, I have to stop this. I want it more than they do. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
it has to be a balance. But the one thing that mentoring does is that if you were to Google where are the top things that make people successful, you'll find probably mentoring, coaching in there in sponsorship, because those are really critical things to helping us stretch. If you had a rubber band and you just pulled it a little bit, it would fall. But if you pulled it back really far, the farther you pull it back, the farther it'll go. And I really see mentoring being one of those tools where you get advice, but you also have someone to listen as a thought leader to help you organize your thoughts, to give you feedback as a gift. Sometimes when people say, hey, I've got feedback for you, we all cringe. But in a mentoring relationship is usually safe, and is one where you want that. You don't want a quarter to go by without saying, "Hey, is there anything you could tell me that or suggest that I do differently?" And there's reciprocity. So let's say that you had a mentor and they gave you all these great ideas, but you never circle back to say, "Hey, I tried that," or "This helped me." Before long, those precious jewels will diminish.
Hmm. I love what you talk about intrinsic desire and that feedback is a gift. I think that's so important to remember. And that for sure has been a theme when you talk about having to say no to someone you were mentoring because you wanted it more. The theme that every single person has talked about is you need to own your mentorship journey. Like take control
Yes.
of your career.
There are so many tools on the HR portal that can help you with mentoring. Um, Being intentional is so important. So even from the first contact to say why you've chosen them, to what are the questions, what are the topics we're going to cover in our first meeting. But be responsible. Don't wait for them to schedule all the meetings. That's the mentee's responsibility. And they're such great things. So sometimes people just want to mentor from the place where they're trying to go. But I would say make sure you have a diverse mentoring pool, more than one person, people who don't necessarily look like you, sound like you, do what you do. You'll then find things open up to you. I started off in electrical engineering in college, and my junior year, I was done. I was so done. They ignored me, so I was so done. And at that time, I didn't really have a mentor. I didn't have a coach. I didn't have people to speak into my life. So I just went for it and I switched from engineering to business. Now I am
Holy smokes.
yeah, I'm so glad I listened to my inner gut and did it because I was so aligned to that. I was working in a bank. And now when I see what my top skills are, relational, collaborating with others, I probably wouldn't have done well tinkering in a corner. And not that all engineers do, but that's where I was headed. So, uh, mentoring can help you sound out things and test the waters and um, really pour out your soul. Sometimes in a corporate environment, we don't want to tell our boss what we're really thinking, or sometimes you have peers that you're competing with and you don't want to really share, "Hey, I'm failing." But that mentor relationship is really one that's there to help you be elevated.
Yeah, and I think that's such a great point. Medtronic has so many different tools. I think sometimes it might even get a little bit overwhelming. You had talked about Asian Impact and also MWN. There are also a number of ERGs. So can you maybe explain, I guess maybe even first start with what an ERG is, because there might be people listening who really have no idea what we're talking
Oh,
about.
yes. Oh, thank you. Let me give you a quick overview of our ERG and network organization. So we have 5 networks. They're really tied to the business outcomes at Medtronic and the IDE outcomes. That's the Asian impact at Medtronic, the African descent, the Hispanic Latino, the Pride Network, and then the Medtronic Women's Network. So those 5 are our big 5. Then we have 8 employee resource groups. They're different from the big 5, even though in all 8 of those, they're all sprinkled throughout all 5 of those networks. But an example would be veterans, maybe faith-based or able, their disabilities. There's just a variety of them. So there's 8 that Medtronic has identified. And then we have various hubs that are under the network side, like MWN Canada or ADN UK. And then on the other side, Surge, which is a Christian network, they have things at the Minnesota level, but then they have things in different parts. But they all kind of work together for the same goal to advance ID&E at Medtronic and in our community. And why is it important to be involved in ERGs? You know, I hear people say, hey, I want to do the manager track, but there's just not an opening. Join a network and lead something. You can lead without a title. That's more influential than having a title and not being able to lead. So stretch your wings, join a network, find something that you love to do or that you want to learn how to do, and then serve in a network. You'll find that eventually they'll be part of your family, they'll be part of your, I want to call it board of directors. And I don't know if you all have heard of that concept, but it's really, and I'll be happy to share that
Please.
resource.
Yeah, I was gonna say, please talk about it a little bit. We'd love to.
Yeah, so what it is we all are who we are because of influences and people speaking into our lives. Well, with the board of directors, you've got your coaches, you've got your advisors, you've got your mentors, you've got your um, colleagues that you just want to be silly with. Then you have your coaches and your sponsors, but there's about 10 different roles that people can play in your life. And when we have people fill it out, sometimes they find that everybody looks the same. So you're really not getting that diverse perspective. Or for instance, if Phoebe had all women, because I can talk to women, I can trust women. I'm not getting that male perspective. And when you're intentionally working on your career aspirations to go further than where you are, it's good to have people to bounce ideas off. Is it a marriage? No, you don't have to be tied down to these people forever. But if you map them out, you can say, oh, I have a gap here. I need to fill that in, or I have a gap over here. But these are people that you can trust. Don't get someone, really has a cross eye at you and then you're sharing all your stuff only because they're good in that role. No, that's not someone you would want on your board, no matter how great they are. You can meet with them and get ideas, but you don't have them in your inner circle. So I find that when start with mentorship, then you can find all the other ones. But mentorship gives you that confidence that, hey, I'm on the right track, or if I'm not on the right track, it just helps you redirect to the right path. And it's a safe environment, and no one's grading you. It's an intrinsic type of reward.
Yeah, I think two things that you have just talked about that I think are important to also consider when you're looking at maybe taking a different position or, if you want to be a manager, let's say, and you suggest to lead without title. I think that's so important. I think also it probably opens up a lot of opportunities for you that if you just stay in your single OU and you just do your thing there, you would miss out on, because now if you can be in part of all of the different ERGs and or have your diverse board of directors, it probably is like an umbrella of opportunities.
Oh, I love that. And it's so perfect because the more you engage with other people outside of your unit, the more you have greater exposure. We say learning comes from three places. 10% is formal education. So you got your PhD, whoop, great thing. But after 3 years, unless you're doing something with it, 20% from exposure. Exposure is mentoring, coaching, watching others, shadowing others. So that's 20% of the learning. And then the last 70% is through experience. And that's why we connect it back to the ERG. You get in there, you figure out, okay, we got to run this like a business. How do we do it? Do we have the right players? Do we have succession plan? It's things that you probably would never think about. But inside that, you get to work with some of the senior vice presidents or some of the OU presidents, or they come and sponsor you. It's a way to get greater exposure and experience that you probably wouldn't get on your own, and you couldn't just go buy it if you wanted to.
Yeah, I think that is so important. I know for me, like coming through the years, I used to think like, well, they must recognize that I'm doing something well. And that's not the case. Like people can't read your mind. You have to have these conversations with them.
Absolutely, absolutely. And people may wonder, well, how do I get a mentor? Do I ask? People ask me that about sponsorship. And I do want to tell us the difference between mentorship and sponsorship. So, mentorship is people are talking to you. And a mentor is an experienced person willing to help and support you. They're a confidential partnership focused on development, advice, and career growth. They act as a sounding board. Now, they can transition. It can be the same person that transitions over to sponsorship. That's someone with some type of credibility. They'll advocate you for your next move. They talk about you when you're not in the room. Like if an opportunity comes up that they know you're interested in, and they believe in you, they'll support that. They'll also help you find development. So the question might be, well, if I did want to sponsor, do I just go ask? Now, I can tell you it's easier to ask for a mentor than it is a sponsor. Your track record, your visibility, and building relationships gets you sponsors. But mentor, you can ask people. Just be sure you know what you want. Do you want someone that's going to pat you in the back every 5 minutes? Or do you want someone that will be truthful and honest and also encouraging? Nobody wants a negative Ned or a negative Nancy. The sky's always falling. So you'll be able to tell. So what I recommend is that people find someone, set up an introductory discovery conversation. And we have sheets that talk about a discovery conversation, like, what do you love most about your job? If you didn't have to work, what would you do? And then you can hear about people's passion. You can just see. So maybe have a couple of sessions to see if it's a good fit. It's almost like speed dating. You have a couple of sessions to see if it fits. And then if you happen to see that, oh, this person is overly optimistic, I could never do any wrong, you might say, well, I'll check in with them once in a while. Or if it's just like, this is like a breath of fresh air. They're not in my business unit. Um, and they get it, and they're sharing another perspective, I'm going to go for it. And you can always find out later if it doesn't work. Just be cordial, treat everyone with respect and thank them. And it doesn't mean you cut it off right away. You could just over time or come and ask someone, how do I cut it off? But mentorship is really, really someone investing in you. They have nothing to gain. So you want to make sure that it's a good match.
Yeah, I think that's so important too, to never just cut it off and always be cordial, because you never know like what's going to come around again.
That's right. That's right.
And I love what you said. Radina had also talked in one of her in the earlier interview, when she talked about kind of similar to speed dating. She had mentioned that sometimes people want to go after a mentor if there's a certain title, but to really look at like what do you love about the job, and like making sure it's not just the title, but it's what you're talking about, the passion, and like what is entailed in the day to day, to make sure it's a good fit.
Yeah, and I do think you should have varying levels. Some people may not think that their peer would be great to be on their board of directors. You want to have some peers on there. Your peers see you day in and day out. They may notice things about you that they admire, and they could be too shy to tell you some of the things that you're getting ready to go down a bad path. But when you establish a safe environment where you want feedback and you want them to be in your world, and you do it with reciprocity, meaning that you give some too. It's not all take, take, take. It's all about me. You'll find that it's just rewarding. And one last thing around mentoring, um, just make sure that you're making time for it. You would want to be prepared for every meeting. Like, this is the one meeting where I'm going to get a breakthrough or a nugget that may change my life. If you are interested like that, you'll get jewels out of every meeting. If you have it as a check the box, I did that. We've met 5 times. I still didn't get promoted. Mentoring is not going to land you a promotion. Mentoring is going to give you a sounding board and a platform to build your muscle or pull that rubber band back further. But if you treat it like it's just, something I'm going to do and it's going to give me an outcome, then you probably have picked the wrong thing to pursue.
That is great advice to be intentional with it. And I think I just want to circle back to one other thing before we close out. So if someone has been listening and they're not part of an ERG and they want to be part of an ERG, but there are so many options, how do you, I guess, best suggest they either get started, or do you say like join them all and see what works for you? What's your take on that?
That was the perfect lead in. Um, so Phoebe is a member of each of the 5 big networks. She's a member of some of the largest ERGs. And I think it's wonderful because they're all doing development programs and they all are doing different things that I find interesting. So maybe you're not the type that wants an email from this group and from that group. So you can pick one that you most affinitize with, or the one that you most resonate with. You can start off there. But look in your local community. Don't always look for the big ones, because sometimes the big ones are global and you're missing out on that one-on-one connection. You're not in the same state or country that they're in, but look for local connections. Especially, I have found some of the promotions come out of that local organization. So part you get more visibility, they know who you are. But my first recommendation is to spread it out. It's not meaning that you have to go to all their events, but at least you get to hear about them. And then if that's not your style, is too much, then start off local and then go global.
Okay, that is great. This has been so helpful and so much fun. Have we missed anything?
You know, I want to tell people that you are the best asset for Medtronic, and that you are your own CEO, and there's a lot of people that want to help your business grow. Just be intentional. And if you haven't taken the efficacy program, which I'm not over it right now, but I tell people that program can help you understand mentoring. It can help you really take your career to the next level and be prepared for it. So, um, just ask around, go into the HR portal to find what's out there. You can Google mentoring and find out which things are there, and then try to sign up for efficacy the next time it comes around. Everyone raves about that program, and it will help your career.
That is such a good tip. And can I tell you, you just kind of like nailed the end of the week with the second theme that has been in every single podcast, that people want to help you. Like every
Yeah,
single person we've interviewed has said, there's nobody here that will tell you no.
I love it.
So good. Where can people find you?
Well, they can find me on LinkedIn, and they can also find me in Teams. Now, Teams might be a little slower, but LinkedIn is probably best, and then Teams would be the second preference.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
Okay, wasn't that great? I love how she really wrapped it all up for us with a great overview of the networks. I love the idea of the board of directors. I think that we can all get working on that for ourselves. I have to again just say, it has been an amazing week with all of the gems that the folks shared, and I truly hope that you not only found it useful for you, but that you also take advantage of connecting with the leaders, or listen, if these are not the leaders that are in alignment with what you're looking for, reach out to others. That is a theme, right? That has been a theme in this entire series. You need to do the work to develop your career. And I always say, it is great to be here and listen, and I love that. Thank you. That is called passive learning. Where you see the change in your life is by taking action. So please make sure you take action after listening to this series. Friends, that is a wrap of this series. Thanks again for being here. Please tune in next week, where I will be sharing a special Multiply Your Impact series episode that you will not want to miss. Okay, friends, that's what I have for you today. Let's meet back here next week. But for now, make it a great day. Take care. Did you know you can take this work to a deeper level with me one-on-one? Go to michelleburkecoaching.com and click on Get Started to begin.